Hello everybody, Brian Tulsa here. What are you doing today? Today, I'm going to take you to North Tulsa to see my childhood home. It's the home where I grew up. I spent most of my childhood years there, from the age of 1 to about 13 or 14. My memory's a little fuzzy on when we moved out of that house. It is in a neighborhood on Sheridan, north of Admiral, on East King Street. I haven't been there in years. At one point, maybe 25 years ago, I drove by the house just to see it. But yeah, I haven't been there in a very long time. I don't know what it looks like now. And I don't know the people who live there now, and I don't want to freak them out by, getting out of the car and taking pictures of it. So I will just roll by and get some video of it, and we'll talk about it. This place is where I spent my formative years. It's a very blue-collar neighborhood, very working-class neighborhood, and I took a lot of my values from growing up there. Nobody had very much money, and we were all just a step above poor. And it was a little bit of a rough neighborhood at the time. I don't know how it is now. We didn't think of it at the time. There were a lot of kids in the neighborhood about our age, and we ran all around that neighborhood. We never thought about whether it would be dangerous or not. Looking back at it, we probably shouldn't have had quite so much freedom running around that neighborhood, but yeah, at the time, it was just home. It was just where all our friends lived. Was it safe? I don't know. We had a lot of things stolen. We had our house broken into. Safe? Probably not. Fortunately, nothing too bad happened to us personally, but safe? Probably not at that time. I have no idea if it's any better now than it was back then. I did take a peek at the place on Google. The house is on a corner with a stop sign. I remember my dad getting very angry at drivers who would run that stop sign. I'll be careful not to do that. There was a pine tree that was planted in the front yard by my dad. The thing was never very healthy, and I don't think the pine tree exists anymore. I think it's been replaced with something else. So I'm expecting the house to look very different. I don't think that pine tree is there anymore. At the time we lived there, the driveway was not paved. It was just a gravel driveway. And I think they may have paved the driveway. The backyard had a huge oak tree in it. I think the oak tree is still there. So we will see about that. Yeah, I'm interested to see what has changed since I last saw it. To get to the neighborhood, we have to go north. North, Miss Tessmacher, north! Oh, there's the old skate land. I remember that place. Didn't know that place still existed. Oh, and there's the Wonder Bread factory. You used to be able to smell bread and baked goods as you drove by. Can't really smell any delicious bread now. Quick Trip, I think that Quick Trip's been at that location for a long time. That's 11th Street, and according to the sign, that is historic Route 66. That's where Route 66 cuts through Tulsa. And we're going north still. Yep, still quite a ways north to get to my old neighborhood. That is Admiral right there. And as soon as we cross that street, we will officially be in North Tulsa. Wow, I do remember these places. Of course, that Cricket store wasn't there when I was a kid, obviously, but that sub shop was. Okay, I'm going down my old street, and this is such a trip. Oh, wow. Not a lot has changed. It looks much the same as when I lived here. On there is the stop sign. I walked this stretch probably hundreds of times as a kid. And of course, as I'm trying to drive up and drive slowly, Yeah, there's my house. There's a dude behind me. That's it, right there. Oh, they still have that paneling. My dad put that paneling on that house. Yeah, the pine tree is gone. The oak tree is gone. They cut down the oak tree. It's just a stump. My grandmother lived a couple blocks away. I think on Latimer. Let's see if I can remember how to find my grandmother's house. Let's see. I think it's this way. It was not that one. Not that one. I believe it was that one right there. Yeah, my grandmother on my dad's side of the family, yeah, used to live in that house right there. I went around the block and I'm approaching the house from the other direction now, and I just wanted to get a little bit better look at it. In a lot of ways, it is the same as I remember, and in other ways, it's totally different. They cut down the huge oak tree that was in the backyard. That was a great shade tree. That was a great climbing tree. There it is, right there on the corner of King and Maplewood. And that bushy tree that's on the corner there, that's where my dad's pine tree used to be. But yeah, the exterior of the house actually looks very similar to the way it did when I was a kid. But there was a big tree there, that stump. And then that stump in the backyard, that was another huge oak tree. Okay, that's enough time in this neighborhood. I got to drive by the house a couple of times and see the place. Yeah, it's not a big house. It actually looks like it's been fixed up a bit since we left it. Before my dad put up that paneling on the house, it was had a lot of chipped paint, and it looked pretty poor. It looks better now. They put a carport on it. It has a very small garage. I don't think you can't park much in there. Oh hey, this was a hamburger joint. I forgot about that on this corner here. Is it still a hamburger place? It's Mexican food now. That used to be a hamburger joint. We used to go there when we have allowance and eat burgers there. It's awesome that the building is still there, but the business has changed. What can I say about my childhood? To be honest, there are huge sections of my childhood that I don't remember very well, and that seems strange to me because I think I should remember them, but my memory is quite fuzzy about some things. There are some things that I remember very well, and I talk about them on my other channel quite a bit, about playing with toys and which toys I owned, and a lot of memories about G.I. Joe and other things like that. But there's so much that is a haze in my memory. I can't remember very many birthdays at that house. I remember some of my friends, but then I have like memories of faces that I can't put names with. I can remember where the house is. I can remember where my grandmother's house was. I remember some of the times that we played in the neighborhood. Since I talk about my childhood quite a bit on my other channel, I think I give the impression that I recall my childhood more than I actually do. But I do talk about the things that I can remember. What I don't say is that there's a lot that I don't remember. And when I hear other people talking about their childhoods, they seem to remember more of their childhoods than I do. I don't know why. For a lot of that time, I was in Christian school, in private school. My parents couldn't really afford Christian private school. So we moved from one school to another, often when they could no longer afford to pay for the school where we were going. And they didn't want to put us in public school, because public school, they would teach evolution, and we might have a sex education class. And these things were of the devil. These things were, the state's effort to repress Christianity, to not teach biblical things. So they didn't send us to public school. They only sent us to Christian school when they could afford it, and when they couldn't afford it, they would homeschool us. And that was a lot of just me and my brother staying home at the house, watching TV and staying indoors until Mom and Dad got home from work. And there wasn't a whole lot of schooling in the homeschooling. And that really was a handicap. I missed a lot of formal education. I missed a lot of schooling that a normal kid would have. Also, socialization, which is something that my parents always scoffed at as a kid even needing socialization. But I didn't learn how to interact with other kids my age. Which is, I think, one of the reasons that I'm sometimes so socially awkward now. And when I decided I wanted to do something academic, I wanted to go to college, I wanted to go to law school, I had to create my own education. I had to learn things on my own and figure out how even to do these things. But I think just spending so many days at home, not alone, my brother was there, but so many days, just locked up in the house until Mom and Dad got home and we could go outside and play. I think that kind of made one day sort of run into another, and they all sort of ran together, and it's hard to remember a lot of it. What do I remember? That's where I started playing with G.I. Joe toys, and that's become a big part of my life now. That's where my brother and I met our friend Sam, who lived in the same neighborhood, and he had lots of G.I. Joe too, so we kind of bonded over G.I. Joe, and that was a lot of fun. We lived really close to my grandmother, my dad's mom, and I remember mowing her lawn in the summertime for extra money, and I would use that extra money to go and buy more G.I. Joe toys. I remember hating mowing that lawn because there was no shade in her backyard at all, and it was torture. The summers here are extremely hot, and I would just be drained, ready to fall over by the time I finished mowing that lawn for the few bucks that she would give us. So I don't know. At the time, I didn't really think it was worth it, but I had to do it, and it's the only way I could really get money to buy more G.I. Joes. I'm no longer in North Tulsa. I'm no longer in what you would call a blue-collar neighborhood, but I still have a lot of those values. I still try to be frugal with money. I still feel like I never have enough money, and I have to be very careful with it. Sometimes I can be hostile toward anyone who is shaming someone else for not buying things or not spending money on things. That happens in collecting communities because people come along and they're like, hey, they spent thousands of dollars on this collection, and they want to act like they're superior to someone who hasn't spent all that money on plastic junk. And that's not cool with me. I grew up without much money at all, and you can't shame people into spending money if they don't have it or don't want to spend it. You learn the value of money when you don't have any of it. And now I'm a lawyer. I don't make a ton of money as a lawyer. You work for a public defender's office, you're not getting rich. But I'm doing well enough. I am doing something that I find meaningful and is fulfilling. And life is okay. But it started in that house. That house with the big oak tree that has been cut down. Tragic. That's all for now. Thank you for joining me on this trip down memory lane. I will see you tomorrow.